Dear fellow truth seekers, thank you and welcome for visiting my channel, MythoReligio. MythoReligio is a video channel based on a book series with the same name about religious comparison studies between the stories in Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism and Buddhism, directly from their sacred books and world mythologies, hence the name MythoReligio. The purpose is to retrace the prehistory of humanity, since I'm not fully satisfied with either the explanations from the point of view of creationist nor evolutionist. There are so many missing links in both explanations. If you feel the same, then you are on the right channel. In this channel, I will also analyze about the prehistory of humanity from the archaeological records, modern scientific point of view, and other alternative theories such as the ancient alien theories and Atlantis or Lemuria legends. After thorough research of circa 30 years, I recognize many similarities between all religious stories and even mythologies, and surprisingly, some of them are in accordance or even beyond modern science that have been proven as correct. Thus, I came to the conclusion that all religions must have come from the same source. And all these religious stories and mythologies, although heavily jumbled up, are actually telling one mega story, the true prehistory of our common ancestors. This mega story is quite different than what we have been told to believe and will truly blow your mind, as it is more fascinating than our imagination. If you have watched the earlier videos in this channel, I believe you can see some of the similarities too. If you haven't and you truly want to do a religious comparative study, I suggest that you do so. The best way to do a comprehensive religious study via this channel is by watching the videos starting from number 1 and continue until this present video and so on. That way you will see a clear pattern. In this channel, I will share almost all that I have written in my book series. However, there is one book so far that I cannot share in this channel due to its sensitive, shocking and dark nature, and also might be considered controversial to some, but I believe it sheds more light to the above conclusion. If you want to read this around 500 pages ebook with many full-color illustrations, you are more than welcome to download book number 5 entitled History of the Dark Side, that is available for free in ebook format that can be found in my website www.mythoreligio.com. You only have to give your email address and it will be sent to you directly. And no, I won't share your email address nor send any advertisement. The link is in the description box. If you want to get the physical book, kindly go to amazon.com. Now let's continue with this week's video. Video number 77 from MythoReligio series book 4. The Enigmatic Human's Prehistory, Out-of-Place Artifacts, Part 3. Dear fellow truth seekers, in my previous videos I have shared with you some out-of-place artifacts that have been found by archaeologists that are simply too advanced to have been made by our primitive ancestors. These out-of-place artifacts are used by some people as evidence that either our ancestors were aliens who visited us in the distant past, or they were descendants of people from the legendary sunken paradise of Atlantis or Lemuria or Mu, or that our ancestors were actually more sophisticated than we are today, and that humans have actually been devolving ever since instead of evolving. In this video, I'll continue to share more of such artifacts. Stone spheres in Costa Rica, Bosnia, China, and other parts of the world. In the 1930s, by accident, many large stone spheres buried and impaled in the soil were discovered in the Dique Valley, Costa Rica. The spheres were previously unknown to the local inhabitants, and they could offer no explanation of who made them or how old they are. These spheres were ignored until rumors started spreading that they may contain gold or precious jewels. Many balls were drilled or cracked open with dynamite, only to reveal that they were composed of solid rock. Later, Dr. Samuel Lothrop of Harvard University studied the stones and published his paper, Archaeology of the Dique Delta, Costa Rica, 1963. Since then, archaeologists have been perplexed by the stones. Thousands have now been found. Some are as small as 4 inches, circa 10 centimeters, about the size of a baseball, while others are massive, 8 feet, circa 2.4 meters in diameter. Estimates of their age go back some 1,600 years, yet no one can be sure how they were made, by whom, or why. The spherical stones certainly took a long time to make. The age of these stones places them at a time when no iron tools were known to exist in that region, meaning the spheres were somehow must be formed by stone implements. Yet no stone tools of this era and geographic area have been found. All of this has led some researchers to speculate that the stone spheres were made by aliens, a lost civilization, and/or the people of Atlantis. Some local legends tell of a magic potion that was able to make the rock soften and hence be easily manipulated. The same legend persists to explain another phenomenon such as the precisely carved and fitted stones of Machu Picchu. One legend says that the spheres were formed around a coffee bean or nuggets of gold. Other legends claim that the spheres were part of a game once played by giants that inhabited the earth, or that the spheres represent stars of constellations in the sky. According to those who discovered them, the spheres were always part of a group of 3, forming a triangle and always placed on the north-south direction. Intriguingly, the spheres had usually been found on hills. One investigator noted that the images carved on one ancient sphere corresponded to a star chart of constellations. It is true that the spheres are often found in groups of 12 to 20 stones and that these groupings have shown to be aligned to north and south. A stone has also been found carved with petroglyphs that have been attributed to stellar constellations, adding to the unearthliness of their origin. Many of the spheres are made of granite-like rock. Closest granite quarries of similar rock are in the Talamanca Mountains, some 50 miles or circa 80.4 kilometers away. Although the stones could have been transported down the nearby Turaba River, no unfinished stones or evidence of excavation in the mountains have ever been found. The stone spheres are almost perfect, with some weighing in at around 32,000 pounds, circa 14.5 tons. Obviously, some type of mechanical process was needed to form the spherical shape, but it is difficult to imagine how they were handled and carved with stone tools to such precision. Furthermore, the region is a dense tropical area with steep terrain, making their movement a task equal to their actual construction. The leading expert on the stone spheres is Ifigenia Quintanilla, a Costa Rican doctoral student at the Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona. She is the author of the book Pre-Columbian Stone Spheres of Costa Rica, 2007. The next leading expert is Dr. Jones Hoopes of the University of Kansas. Dr. Hoopes believes the majority of stones were made by local inhabitants who lived in the area from about 800 to 1200 CE. Wikipedia gives the date of 200 BCE until 1500 CE. Because these ancient people had no written language, there is no record of the stones in their history. Dr. Hoopes says the stones were likely formed from granite blocks by successively heating and cooling the outside of the rock, causing it to flake away in layers. Hand tools such as matate would have been used to refine the spherical shape with sand and leather to finish and polish the surface. The construction of the spheres would have required a high degree of measurement and mathematics. One perplexing question is why the same level of skill and precision has not been found in any other artifacts of this era and region. Dr. Hoopes believes the stones were likely used as a sign of wealth or status, or perhaps in some religious or ceremonial events. but no one knows for sure. Total stones are in the thousands, but only 186 can be accounted for in the official records. Often the stones are dug up and moved before any attempt is made to plot their locations or configurations. While the mystery of these Costa Rican spheres is still unsolved, another giant sphere was excavated in a Bosnian wood as reported in foxnews.com in April 2016. Archaeologist Semir Osmanagic estimates the sphere, which resembles a giant cannonball protruding from an embankment that could have a diameter anywhere from 7 to nearly 10 feet or 2.1 till 3 meters with a high iron content and could weigh more than 30 tons. He also says that the stone ball is one of several near a town called Zavidovici, and that at one time there were as many as 80 of them. Similar spheres were found in many places all over the world and in great numbers. In the Beta mountain close to the Chinese-Mongolian border, more than 1,000 stone spheres have been found. The smallest ones are the size of a ping pong ball, while the bigger ones are almost 6.5 feet or 2 meters in diameter. Similar stone spheres have been also found in Brazil, Mexico, Germany, New Zealand, United States, and Egypt. Most scientists believe this sphere occurred naturally by a process called a concretion. Concretions occur when very small mineral particles glue together to form a type of cement between larger grains of sand or dirt. The exact circumstances around their formations are still relatively unknown. Concretions are often harder than the surrounding rock they form in, so over thousands and millions of years they will be the only part of the rock formation that remains and end up in quite striking patterns and shapes. But how can concretion explain the fact that apart from the one found in Bosnia, most of these spheres are found on top of the soil and not within? And how they are found all over the world with almost perfect spherical shape? While most experts consider the spheres are natural, the famous scientist Carl Sagan said, "There is a certain purpose for the stone spheres of big and small size to be placed there. For instance, they represent different stars in the sky. The distance among them denote the relative positions of the stars. This is most likely a souvenir given by guests from the universe who want to send our mankind some kind of message." Aiud artifact. In 1974 in Romania, 2 kilometers or 1.24 miles east of Aiud, a group of workers on the banks of the river Mureș discovered 3 buried objects in the sand, in a trench about 10 meters of 32 feet in depth. 2 of the objects proved themselves to be mastodon bones, some millions of years old, from between the Miocene and the Pleistocene periods. The third object, a block of metal, similar in some respect to the head of a hammer, was sent off for study to the Archaeological Institute of Cluj-Napoca. Examination of this object showed that it was 20.2 centimeters or 7.9 inches long, 12.5 centimeters or 4.9 inches wide, and 7 centimeters or 2.7 inches high, and ignited a debate within the scientific community. Florin Georgita, for one, had the opportunity to examine the report, and the analysis performed under the direction of Dr. Niederkorn of the Institute for the Study of Metals and of Non-Metallic Minerals, ICPMMN, located in Magurel, Romania, emphasized that it is composed of an alloy of extremely complex metal. Georgita affirms that the alloy is composed of 12 different elements, of which he has succeeded to establish also the volumetric percentage of the aluminum, 89%. He identified the presence of copper, 6.2%, silicon, 2.84%, zinc, 1.81%, lead, 0.41%, zirconium, 0.2%, cadmium, 0.11%, nickel, 0.0024%, cobalt 0.0023%, bismuth 0.0003%, silver 0.0002%, and gallium in trace amounts. The fact that this weird metal object is uncovered together with very ancient bone, mastodon, does cause one to wonder and raises many issues. This aluminum wedge of Ayut is often cited as proof that aliens visited Earth at earlier times, because aluminum was difficult to produce in quantity before 1825. Scientists, however, believe that this object is a fake. Aluminum, just to begin, is not found free in nature, but combined with other minerals, and only in the last 100 years or so has the technology been thought to exist to separate it out. Additionally, this strange foot is discovered with an oxide layer of little more of a millimeter, which lends credence to its antiquity. The Romanian scientists began to form some hypotheses. There was one that seems more interesting than others. An aeronautical engineer in fact advised that it was similar to the foot of a landing device of a sort of flying vehicle with reduced dimensions, such as the lunar module or the Viking probe. In confirmation or support of this theory, beyond the shape of the object are the two oval holes and the scratches in the interior, in the rear part, and the angles, like to the composition of the materials as well as its composition of light aluminum. After the analysis of this layer, the specialists affirmed that the object is at least 300 to 400 years old. The result puzzled the researchers, because pure aluminum was not readily obtainable until the middle of the 19th century. The specialists claimed that the object could be 20,000 years old, because it was found in a layer with mastodon bone. Perhaps this particular specimen lived in the latter part of the Pleistocene. Some researchers suppose that this piece of metal was part of a flying object that had fallen into the river. They presumed that it had an extraterrestrial origin. Other researchers affirm that it was made on Earth and was part of a tool. The purpose of this tool is unknown. Other out-of-place artifacts. There are many more out-of-place artifacts. Here are some that I extracted from Chariots of the Gods by Erich von Däniken. In Lebanon, there are glass-like bits of rock called tektites in which radioactive aluminum isotopes have been discovered. Egypt and Iraq, they were finding of cut crystal lenses which today can only be made by using cesium oxide, in other words an oxide that has to be produced by electrochemical processes. In Helwan there is a piece of cloth, a fabric so fine that today it would be woven only in a special factory with great technical know-how and experience. In the mountainous Asian region of Kohistan, a cave drawing reproduces the exact position of the stars as they actually were 10,000 years ago. Venus and the Earth are joined by lines. Ornaments of smelted platinum were found on the Peruvian plateau. Parts of a belt made of aluminum lay in a grave at Zhongzhen, China. The list goes on. There are many more out-of-place artifacts found around the globe. None of them can be explained satisfactorily. This impossibility should make us curious and uneasy, don't you think? Now, these are the questions to all these out-of-place artifacts that I have shared with you in this video and the two previous videos. Batteries are only introduced in the modern world in 1748. So how come we found batteries which were already more than 3,000 years old? How and who made the Antikythera? Where did this sophisticated knowledge come from? Did the ancient Egyptians make such fine stone dishes using a lathe? How did they lose the knowledge? What is the function of the tri-lobed bowl? Is it a bowl? Who made the stone spheres in Costa Rica, Bosnia, China, and other parts of the world? What is their purpose? Why are there so many of them? How could the Ayut artifact be a fake when it was buried together with mastodon bones? Who would make such a hoax? For what? Who made the complex alloy 20,000 or even 300 years ago? By what means, with what intuition did the primitive cave dwellers in Kohistan manage to draw the stars in their correct positions? From what precision workshop did they cut crystal lenses? How anyone could smelt and model platinum, since platinum begins to melt only at 1800 degrees Celsius or 3272 degrees Fahrenheit? And how did the ancient Chinese make aluminum, a metal that has to be extracted from bauxite with some technical difficulties? We have no satisfactory answer to all these questions. Our ancient primitive ancestors were not supposed to be able to make all this, and yet they did. Fellow truth seekers, besides the abundance of unexplainable out-of-place artifacts, there are also many enigmatic ancient megalithic constructions in the world. Until today, it remains a mystery as to how did our supposedly primitive ancestors build them. Next week, I will share them with you. But for now, allow me to thank you for watching and hope to see you next week.